The next is the Waipapa Papanui-Innes Community Board.
Hi everyone. We have no parties in our report either this month. We have a few bits and pieces. You can do that, but this is much awaited by the community. This is the St Albans Park. It really hasn't been able to operate to its full potential for the last 8 years, obviously, but prior to that as well because of poor drainage. The ground itself has been delayed as far as completion goes because of the weather. It's been very, very wet, but the pavilion itself, we are soft opening. We are inviting some community, inviting community along to the soft opening on the 15th of September. Oh yes, this is really lovely. We've been meeting and talking with residents in the Dudley Street Works area, and clearly there's been a lot of stress. This is a Richmond, Dallington, Maidahau, primarily Shirley and Dallington area, and for a very long time residents there have had to manage an awful lot of disruption. And on August the 31st, the official end of the Dudley Creek Flood Mitigation Scheme works occurred, if you have an occurrence of an ending. The two site compounds were wound up and handed back, and the bulk of the Dudley Creek contractors were out of the area on the 31st, and this is something that was clearly signalled to the community in meetings and communications with them. There's still some planting that's still to go on. I'll come back to the letters in a moment, but this is the kind of technically challenged. So we have had, that's the finished product at the bottom for water, obviously. There's been some really beautiful planting in the area as well, which is making a huge difference to the amenity there. And roads have been reopening again, which also is pretty important to the amenity and the community. One of the issues remains, and it is a major issue, and that is the condition of the roads generally and pavements. However, that is being looked at by staff, and we will be addressing that in early October directly with the community when we have our follow-up community meeting. So that's been called for and heard by the community board and by staff. There was a letter, going back to the letters that, and this was an initiative from Joe Byrne, actually, who prior to being on the community board was very involved in the Flockton flooding issue as a spokesperson and very well connected. So she went back to some of the Flockton residents to explain, and they already knew anyway because of the coverage, but the stress and anxiety and disruption that the people in the area that the Dudley Creek works are being done in, and the St Albans Creek works are being done in, but they actually don't see the outcome of that. This is being done for further down the line. So the Flockton Basin people wrote these really lovely, heartfelt notes that were communicated to the Shirley Richmond community. This is one letter that came from Angela and Phil, and they said, "To the residents of the Richmond area, we want to pass on our sincere appreciation to the residents of Richmond for what they have had to go through over the last few years during the flood mitigation works for the Flockton Basin area. We can only imagine how difficult the constant noise, stress, road closures, disruption to businesses, amongst many other things, have been for you, and we want to pass on and thank you for your understanding. As a previous resident at the lower end of Flockton, I remember the stress and anxiety with each heavy rainfall, the lifting of everything in the house, the leaving home with our young baby toddler every time the water reached the bottom of the house, and the anxious wait to come back the next day to see how bad the damage was. I'm so thankful that the current residents in the Flockton Basin don't have to go through that again and again, and it is because of you and what you have endured in recent times that they can comfortably live in their homes and continue on with their lives without fear and anxiety. A very heartfelt thank you." So those messages really were well received, and I thank Joe Byrne for that initiative and obtaining that. Continuing through, we are still dealing with roading issues in the ward. Primarily these are primarily the main concerns. We have the Cranford Street Downstream Mitigation Plan, which is in process at the moment, and the board is having or will be hearing a report back from the roading engineer, who has seen, listened, understood all of the issues through the submissions, and he will be putting those into a plan and speaking to the community board about those and getting feedback from us. There is another opportunity for the community to be consulted and feedback as we move forward on this really difficult issue. The Breeze Walking Festival, that is city-wide, but of course we've got some great areas in the Papanui-Innes ward that we will be being involved in that. I also wanted to quickly mention the Main North Road Bus Priority project, which was to be decided by the board at our last meeting, and that was actually laid on the table while we asked for some more information. This is with regards to the little bit between, and an important bit, from Harewood Road to Winston Ave, and we asked for more information after hearing from the businesses, so that is still in train. I also wanted to mention the time capsule that we are opening on the 14th of September. This is going to be really cool because we don't know what's in it, and this is the time capsule that was in the former resource centre in St Albans, the St Albans Community Centre. It was known as and used as well, and we're opening that with local school kids and others from the community on the 14th of September, and then starting a project on setting a new one up and working out what goes into that, and again the schools will be key in that. I also wanted to mention the 125th anniversary of Women Achieving the Vote. As you will all know, that's being celebrated this year. The reason I'm mentioning this is that there is a woman in our ward called Rachel Harris, who's on the board of the National Council of Women. I've just stepped down from the board of the National Council of Women as we continue to deal with EQC and insurance issues in Christchurch. It's just taking too much of my time. So the Prime Minister is the keynote speaker at an event at the Isaac Theatre Royal on the 13th of September. And she'll underline the role of Christchurch as the birthplace of the suffrage movement. And of course the National Council of Women, headed by Kate Shepherd, had the first meeting in Christchurch 122 years ago. That was 3 years after women achieved the right to vote. It's a very different group of women heading that organisation now, but they've just recently announced Helen Clark as the patron of the organisation. It was fantastic to see her at the national conference last weekend. I'd like to finish with a shameless plug for the Kate Shepherd Memorial Trust Suffrage 125th celebration and fundraiser, which is taking place on Wednesday the 19th of September at the Knox Church at 6:30, and it will feature Gayleen Preston. So it will be a really awesome event. It's called Herstory, Misadventures in Filmland, an evening of entertainment, mixing and mingling with refreshments. If you want to know any more about that, you can get in touch with me through Facebook or Google the Kate Shepherd Memorial Trust Award, and I hope that you go along and see that. It will be a fantastic event. Thank you.
Now, Mike and Pauline would like to move and second the report. There's a couple of minutes there. Does anyone have any questions? David?
Yeah, you just want to have a matter of curiosity, and I may have missed it, but the time capsule that you have lifted, how old is it and when was it created?
God, 90 years old? Yeah, 90 years old, isn't it? Yeah, 90 years old.
Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic. I'm sure there'll be some.
There might be a picture of you in there, Dave.
Yeah, well, quite like it.
Sorry.
Now, all right, I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you very much. But we'll just take a, we're taking a 10 to 15 minute break. I know that